Hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video, and today I want to talk about farming credits, more specifically farming credits via the Index Arena game mode, because it is by far the fastest way of farming credits in Warframe. The Index, for those of you that don't know, is a Corpus Arena game mode, kind of like Rathum, that can be found on Neptune. It has three different difficulties: a low risk investment, medium risk investment, and high risk investment that require you to invest a certain amount of credits up front. It's 30,000 for low, 40,000 for medium, and 50,000 for high. The game mode is somewhat similar to Rathum, but instead of just being team deathmatch, it's sort of team kill confirmed collection type gameplay. In that whenever anyone dies, whether it be on your team or the enemy team, they will drop a green index point. Those are the green floaty things that are orbiting around my character. Now, an important thing to note here is that if you are carrying any index points and you die, you will drop all the index points you are carrying, as well as a bonus index point because, well, you just died. And this goes for everyone, even the enemies. Each index point you're carrying will also affect you by a stack of financial stress, which will lower your maximum HP and drain your energy. So if you're carrying a lot of them, you will have pretty much no health and energy, which is really dangerous. But on the flip side, the more index points you cache at one time, the higher bonus points you get. If, for example, you cache 7 or 8, you will get 2 bonus points on top of that. And you cache the index points by running into one of 2 terminals that will be marked with the objective marker. Now, each index difficulty has a set amount of points you need to cash in before you get the reward. The low risk investment requires you to cash in 50 points and you will get 105,000 credits, which is a 75,000 credit profit because you had to invest 30. The medium risk investment requires you to score 75 points, but you will get 175,000 credits, which is a 135,000 credit profit because you had to invest 40. And finally, the high risk investment requires you to score 100 points and you will get 250,000 credits, which is a 200,000 credit profit because you had to invest 50. I also want to mention that while it is significantly faster if you're running this in a party, you can run this solo or with 1 or 2 other people because your team will always be filled up with specters, so you have 4 players on your team. And the reason why it's much faster with a full party of people is because the specters, just like the enemies you're fighting, are not very good at this game mode. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, hang on, I already know all of this, so what's the point? Well, the point is the Index got an update, so all 3 of the difficulties are now sort of a proper endless game mode. So instead of cashing in just enough points and then finding a nice AFK spot to wait for the timer to run out so you can get the reward, you get sort of the standard endless screen that we get in other game modes like Defense and Interception. It basically just asks you whether you want to leave or keep going. This is huge, even if you don't want to go for multiple rewards and you want to leave after 1 round, because it removes so much wasted time from each run. I was personally averaging about 3 to 4 minutes for the low risk investment, about 5 to 7 minutes for the medium risk investment, and about 9 to 10 minutes for the high risk investment. Which means that even if we look at the worst case scenario, which I was in, I was doing it solo and I wasn't particularly rushing it, you are getting at least 1 million credits an hour. And if you're playing solo at least, it doesn't really matter which investment you choose. And remember, this is the worst case scenario. When I tried a little bit in the low risk investment, I was able to get the run down to about 3 minutes, including both loading screens, so in and out. And at that point, I was averaging somewhere around 1.5 million credits per hour. That's a lot of credits. It's not as crazy as the Chroma Secura Electa thing that we used to do on Akkad, but it's still a lot of credits. Especially if you have a good party that can just zoom through high-risk investments. Now, a fantastic setup for the Index is an Iron Skin Rhino, but you can go with a Warding Halo Neja with the Augment if you're playing in a party. When it comes to the aura, you either want to go with Corrosive Projection because a lot of the units have armor, or you can go with Shield Disruption because they also have a ton of shields. Then I have Power Drift, Blind Rage, Transient Fortitude, and Intensify to get really beefy Iron Skin, and I'm using the Iron Shrapnel Augment. This is perfect for the Index because if you're carrying around index points, you have no health, so you have to rely on Iron Skin to tank all the damage, and this lets you refresh it by detonating it and casting it again. After that, I'm running Streamline and Fleeting Expertise, which you can max out if you want to, and this makes Iron Skin cheap enough so that you only need to pick up 1 energy orb to refresh it, which saves you some time at the start, but also allows you to refresh your Iron Skin while carrying index points, assuming that you do it fast enough. And we top it all off with Armored Agility for some sprint speed and armor, and Steel Fiber for armor, which also buffs your Iron Skin. Now when it comes to the weapon, you basically want to get as much damage as possible because the brokers will scale throughout the mission, not as fast as they used to, they do scale a little bit slower, but the faster you're killing them, the faster you're cashing in points, and the faster you're farming credits. So even though I was not using this exact setup because I prefer the more upfront focused one, something like this is going to perform extremely well for you if you can put it together. So I have the Tigress Prime that's running Prime Point Blank for damage, then I have Health Chamber and Vigilante Armament for a buttload of multi-shot, Sweeping Serration for an obscene amount of slash damage, Scattering Inferno and Shell Shock for radiation and status, and Frigid Blast and Toxic Barrage which caps your status and gives you Viral. Now you might be thinking, well, the Rhino setup is all nice and dandy, but what about the Scrambles guy? Because one of the brokers you can find in the index is called Jat Terran, who is a Scrambles, and whenever he respawns, he will spawn with a different helmet. And this is not that big of a deal unless he spawns with a null helmet, which will allow him to dispel your defensive buffs, so the Iron Skin. Or that's how it used to be at least, because his null helmet doesn't seem to be working. I ran into him a few times while I was recording clips for this video and he never dispelled my Iron Skin. He did a lot of damage to my Iron Skin, far more than any of the other units, but he never dispelled it. So I jumped into the simulacrum and spawned 20 of them over and over and over again, and I ran around with my Iron Skin and they never dispelled it. Their null helmet doesn't seem to work. And I think this has something to do with the recent combatant Scrambles changes, where they made their nullification fields far more obvious and thus avoidable. So they either broke the null helmet in the process, or what I think happened is just remove the nullification from that helmet and gave him a grenade that does a lot of damage to stuff like Iron Skin but doesn't just straight up dispel it. Or I just got unbelievably lucky because, as I said, I did this over and over and over again and I ran into him multiple times in the index. Now when it comes to actually playing the index, the best tip I can give you is to not carry too many points at once. You usually want to cash it in when you have about 10 of them. Because the mission has a timer, and whenever you cash in points, the timer goes up, and whenever the enemy cashes points, the timer goes down. If it runs out, you lose. So if the enemy somehow managed to kill you while you're carrying a lot of points and they cash them in, what can happen is the timer will jump down all the way to 0 and you will lose, which is pretty much the only way you're gonna lose, because as I've said already, they are really dumb. They don't usually score a lot of points on their own. You don't have to be worried about it because it's not gonna happen very often, just be mindful of it, okay? Keep an eye out on your Iron Skin or Warding Halo. And finally, credit boosters, because yes, if you're running a credit booster, it will double the amount of credits you can get from this, which means that at that point, the worst case scenario for you is going to be 2 million credits an hour if you do it over and over and over again. The worst case scenario, once again, meaning casually doing low risk investment on your own. And that's pretty much it, so I thank you very much for watching. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video and it was helpful. I wish you good luck when farming credits in the index, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.